May I thank Chairman Schuster for opening this year by having, I think he's done this before, this across-the-board comprehensive hearing on our nation's infrastructure. And I applaud what this committee has done, very bipartisan committee, not only the Word bill, the FAST Act, even when the rest of the country wasn't moved, rest of the Congress has not been moving as rapidly in its own mission. The FAST Act, of course, is the latest version, passed in 2015. And I think the committee deserves the compliments of the committee for passing the first highway transportation bill, comprehensive highway transportation bill in a decade. But I have to tell you that it broke my heart that in order to get even a small bump, that is to say an increase, we had to reduce the bill from a 6-year bill to a 5-year bill. And of course, the bill had to contain a number of gimmicks as well. And that is, even given the best efforts, and I must tell you, extraordinary bipartisan efforts, and there was great agreement on this bill. The present strategy for our infrastructure is delay. That strategy is prohibitively expensive. We are not even doing maintenance. So what it means is that billions of dollars that those who had the guts before us have invested in our transportation infrastructure, which made this country what it is today, that is crumbling as well. So here's something that I championed and that was done with great bipartisan support in the FAST Act. And it's such a small amount, it makes me blush. But it's a provision that provides $20 million in grants to the states to themselves come up with alternative sources of funds for the Highway Trust Fund. As you know, the Highway Trust Fund, and I ought to, I suppose, give this to Mr. Smith. As you know, the Highway Trust Fund has just been stuck now, and we're doing nothing to replenish it. Mr. Smith, the reason I thought this was a question for you is I noted in your testimony something that surprised me, and I thought was important to note, that FedEx supports a broad mix of revenue sources in order to avoid over-reliance, here I'm quoting you, on a single option. I take it that single option is the one we've been using, which of course will run out even before this bill runs out, the gas tax. In light of the fact that we're asking the states to give us ideas about alternative sources, can I ask you, Mr. Smith, why you think the gas tax alone will not be sufficient, and what kind of alternative sources do you think should be put on the table so that even if we were able to get the Highway Trust Fund with the gas tax, we would have additional sources to get going? Any ideas you have would be much appreciated.
Yes. Well, let me give you three, but let me address again the Highway Trust Fund. As I've said a couple of times now, we at FedEx and virtually every entity in the commercial transportation, surface transportation business that I know of supports an increase in gasoline and diesel taxes indexed from the cap that was placed on them in 1994. So having said that, here are three issues. First, the transportation system is moving away from complete reliance on internal combustion engines. There are increasing uses of electric and hybrid electric vehicles, and in the heavy freight area, I was in Oklahoma recently at the ribbon cutting for our new compressed natural gas facility for FedEx Freight. So those two technologies are not captured by today's gasoline and diesel system. There needs to be something, a vehicle mileage tax or some other mechanism to fund use of the federal highway system by those types of vehicles. Second, we are strongly in favor of a revised United States corporate tax code because we're not competitive. I think Mr. Trumka will agree that blue-collar folks need equipment and investment so they can have a high income level, bulldozers, trucks, planes, whatever the case may be. So we're not competitive, and we're particularly not competitive with our global taxation system. We're the only, there's only one other industrialized country in the world, Chile, that has a global tax system. So if we went tomorrow to a global, to a territorial system with some level of taxation to prevent gaming, 8% or whatever the case may be, there would be hundreds of billions of dollars that could come back in this country tomorrow that could provide funding for infrastructure. And the last idea is congestion pricing. I mean, we all know today when you go through a bridge or a tunnel in New York or wherever, you don't have to go up and pay somebody taking the money. We have a little RFID tag there that says you're paid going into Manhattan. That type of technology is cheap, it's available, it's been successfully tested down in southern Florida in order to reduce congestion by putting congestion pricing there, giving you incentives to use high occupancy lanes or to operate in non-congested periods of time. That could be another source of revenue. So those are three.
Gentlelady's time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With that, Mr. Gibbs is ready.